Hello, and welcome back to Fairy Tale Fables. Today, we journey into a familiar yet timeless story, the tale of Snow White. In a distant kingdom, nestled between rolling hills and shadowed forests, tales began to spread like wildfire. Travelers spoke in hushed tones around crackling campfires. Merchants whispered in bustling marketplaces, and minstrels sang ballads of a maiden of unparalleled beauty, sleeping an enchanted sleep. They said she lay in a glass coffin, deep within the great forest, her skin as white as snow, her lips as red as blood, and her hair as black as ebony. She was untouched by time, a perfect rose preserved under glass, waiting for a dawn that might never come. These stories traveled far and wide, carried on the wind until they reached the ears of a young prince from a neighboring land. He was a man of courage and principle, known for his kind heart and adventurous spirit. As he listened to the travelers' whispers, a strange feeling took root in his heart. The image of the sleeping maiden captivated his imagination. Was she real, or merely a legend spun from fireside dreams? The mystery of it all pulled at him, a silent call he could not ignore. He felt a deep, unexplainable connection to this girl he had never met, a sense of duty to find her. The prince knew he could not rest, could not find peace in his own castle until he discovered the truth for himself. He resolved to seek out this maiden, no matter the cost. And so, the prince's quest began. He bid farewell to his kingdom, trading his royal robes for the sturdy gear of a traveler. He mounted his faithful steed and rode toward the vast, untamed forest that bordered his lands. The journey was not an easy one. He rode through dark woods, where the trees grew so thick they blotted out the sun, their gnarled branches reaching down like skeletal fingers. He crossed treacherous streams and climbed steep, rocky hills, guided only by the whispers of the tale and a steadfast hope that burned brightly within him. Days turned into weeks. The path was lonely, and doubt sometimes crept into his mind like the morning mist. But whenever he felt his resolve waver, the image of the sleeping maiden would surface in his thoughts, renewing his strength and pushing him onward. He was not just chasing a rumor, he was following his destiny. As he ventured deeper into the forest, the world around him seemed to change. The air grew thick with an ancient magic. Strange voices whispered on the wind, carried through the rustling leaves, though he could never quite make out their words. They were not menacing, but rather curious and watchful. Even the forest creatures seemed to be part of the enchantment. A wise old owl would hoot from a high branch, its gaze seeming to point him in the right direction. A family of deer would cross his path and then pause, looking back as if to say, "This way." The birds, too, seemed to play their part. Flocks of them would suddenly take flight, their wings a flutter of color, guiding him along a winding, sun-dappled trail. It was as if the entire forest knew of his quest and had conspired to lead him to his destination. The woods were not an obstacle, but a labyrinth with a living, breathing heart, and he was its chosen guest. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the path opened into a sunlit clearing. There, beneath the sprawling branches of an ancient, moss-covered oak tree, he saw it, a sight so beautiful and so sorrowful, it stole the breath from his lungs. A coffin, crafted from pure, clear glass, shone like a crystal in the dappled sunlight, and inside, lying on a bed of white silk, was the maiden from the stories. She was even more beautiful than the legends had described. Her face was serene, her black hair fanned out around her like a halo against the white silk. She was Snow White. Surrounding the coffin, their faces etched with a grief that had weathered many years, stood 7 small figures. They were the dwarfs, the faithful guardians of the sleeping princess. They watched him approach, their eyes filled with a mixture of suspicion and weary hope. The prince dismounted, his heart heavy with a mix of awe and sadness. He approached the dwarfs with respect, his intentions clear in his gentle gaze. Seeing the goodness in his eyes, the dwarfs lowered their guard. They told him their story, their voices cracking with sorrow. They spoke of the beautiful princess, Snow White, and her kind heart that had won their friendship. They told him of her wicked stepmother, the vain queen, who, consumed by jealousy, had poisoned the girl with a cursed apple. The queen's spell was powerful, casting Snow White into a sleep so deep it mimicked death, a slumber from which only true love's kiss could awaken her. She has slept for many moons. One of the dwarfs sighed, his words a testament to their long, patient vigil. They had protected her, waiting for a miracle, for someone whose heart was pure enough to break the curse. The prince listened, his sorrow deepening with every word. He knelt beside the glass coffin and gazed at Snow White's face. It was so peaceful, so pure, untouched by the evil that had brought her here. A powerful emotion washed over him, a profound sense of loss for a life he had never known, and an overwhelming surge of love for the beautiful soul sleeping before him. It was as if he had known her his entire life. In that moment, he knew without a doubt that he loved her. He felt his heart ache with a desire to see her smile, to hear her laugh, to bring her back from the silent world she was trapped in. With the dwarf's silent permission, he knew what he must do. He asked them to lift the lid of the glass coffin. With great care, the dwarfs and the prince worked together to lift the heavy glass lid. As they moved the coffin, it jostled slightly. The small movement was just enough to dislodge the piece of poisoned apple that had been caught in Snow White's throat for so long. The moment the piece of apple slipped from her lips, the magic of the curse was broken. A soft sigh escaped her, and slowly her eyelashes fluttered. Snow White opened her eyes. At first she was bewildered, blinking against the bright light filtering through the leaves. The world came back into focus, and the first thing she saw was the handsome, kind face of the prince looking down at her. A brilliant light seemed to burst from her, and all around them, the birds took to the sky in a joyous fluttering cloud. The forest itself seemed to exhale in relief. The long winter of her sleep was finally over. News of Snow White's awakening spread through the kingdom faster than the wicked queen could flee. Faced with the return of the princess she thought she had vanquished, the queen's power crumbled. Consumed by her own rage and vanity, she vanished from the kingdom, never to be seen or heard from again. Her dark reign was over. With the shadow of evil lifted, joy and light returned to the land. Snow White, rightful heir to the throne, returned to her castle, but not alone. The prince, who had journeyed so far and loved her before she even knew his name, was by her side. They were married in the grand castle courtyard, surrounded by their happy subjects, and, of course, their 7 dearest friends, the dwarfs. Confetti rained down as they celebrated a love that had conquered darkness. Snow White, with her prince beside her, ruled with the same kindness and grace that had always filled her heart, and they lived happily ever after. And so, we see that true love, fueled by courage and kindness, holds the power to awaken us from even the darkest of spells. It reminds us that hope is a light that can guide us through any forest. Thank you for joining us on this journey with Fairy Tale Fables. We hope you enjoyed this timeless story. If you did, please give this video a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe and ring the bell so you won't miss our next enchanting tale. Until next time, may your own stories be filled with magic and happy endings.